Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Record Breakers. I am Petey Rave, your man with no plan. Here with me is my team, my co-compatriots, my something or other, another synonym. We've got Brett.
I'm your cinnamon.
We've got Patrick.
Hi.
And we've got Drew.
Hey.
Yeah. We're here gathered to talk about music, and the provider of the music this week is Drew. Drew, what do you got for us this week?
Well, it's a little something. It may have went under the radar for most people. It's a little group, just a duo out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. No real big... it's Hall Notes.
Hauling goats?
Yes, we're hauling goats. We've got to get.
I thought oat futures were pretty good, so I was going to invest heavily in oats.
Yes. Talk about Hall Notes, Private Eyes. Just talk about expectations. We all had expectations. We all kind of had an idea of what we were getting into. Imagine, Brett, what were your expectations coming into this review?
You know, this is an exercise in like listening to songs that I've heard a million times before, and trying to find some things that I've sort of glossed over. They're one hell of a band to dig your teeth into, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But there was everybody, my mother, my future great grand niece, everybody will have an opinion on Hall & Oates before they listen to this podcast from now and forever. Yeah. I would like to meet somebody who is unfamiliar with Hall & Oates, at least casually. That would be somebody who I would really enjoy having a conversation with, because everybody has been touched by the Man-Eater or the rich girl. Even Drew and his mother singing in a car together, as I heard in pre-show.
Yes. Yes. I've sung many a Hall & Oates song in karaoke. Patrick, what expectations did you have?
It's Hall & Oates. I had never listened to a Hall & Oates album proper, but many a Hall & Oates song. It's Hall & Oates.
Mm-hmm. It's Hall and it's Oates. It's Hall and it's Oates. Drew, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes and elements to comprise this album?
Well, to sort of point out, Daryl Hall and John Oates are a duo, as I said, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They, to me, are one of those bands that sort of defined the era that they are a part of. They sort of are one of those like tentpole bands that like late 70s, like early mid 80s, like pop music scene. Private Eyes came out and was actually being recorded during like Voice's rise, right? So it came out like literally right on the heels as the last single was dropping. And so they gave you no time to wait for more hits, because that's what they do. They sort of began to hone in on and sort of make true of what they were. They had the funky bass lines. They had the good side of pop music. They had the rock and roll, and all that mixed together, right? To, in my opinion, for better or worse, I know they don't like the term. I'm not a huge fan of it either, but they will forever be linked to the idea of blue-eyed soul. All the stuff on here is danceable, fun stuff. It's pop music, sure, but it's the pop music you don't really feel bad about, right? Because there's a lot of musical substance to it. The bass lines are groovy but simple. The keys have at once flashes of disco and then that like hint of like 80s flair to it. And then every once in a while some horns come in. I like that. And you get the vocals of both Daryl and John, right? And it's like they mix really well, and they both work in the songs that they lead on. They both work in the songs that they take a back seat to. They can very much interchange like that, and you never miss a beat with them. They're just something that I can put on and just have fun with. Like, it's just fun music.
Yeah, fun tunes. Brett, how would you describe this musically? What would be the themes elements that make Hall & Oates Hall & Oates?
Well, a lot of it comes down to the fact that there's a lot of musical muscle being thrown around on this album, like to a nutty level. I mean, you've got Daryl Hall playing like 30 different instruments and singing. You got Oates being the mustachioed songsmith that he is, strumming it up. You throw in G.E. Smith and his Telecaster, and you have like 3 very, very famous and noteworthy musicians outside of what they did together. But what they did was they did a good job of merging like a doo-wop or Motown feel. And they added drum machines and synthesizers, an entire drawer of hand percussion instruments. They had 3 different sizes of mandos. They had a mandolin, a mando guitar, and a mandocello, I believe. And they found a vibraphone, just for good measure. That there's like so many threads in every song of different instruments being used, but like they know to put those instruments down so it doesn't muddy a lot of things up. But the songs, if you break them down, are extremely simple. There's not a lot of complex song structure. It's just the execution and how much, when they're in the studio, they're like, no, I think I need to use this egg shaker right here. And then in a minute, I'll pick it up again and shake it. You know, that kind of stuff. Like they found like the hamburger helper of music, and they stretched it out, and they made some really solid music with what they executed it well. But they were not, rewriting the book on songwriting. They were doing what people had been doing at that point for 30 years. They were just doing it with such a honed edge and great turns of phrase. Lyrically, I don't like lyrics in songs to be the standout thing, but there are some. It is catchy, fun lyrics. There when we break down songs, that you will find that there's a whole there's some whiz bang and stuff that other people would not have whiz or bang.
Yeah, that's for sure. Patrick, how would you describe this musically? What would be the themes elements that caught your attention?
It's one of those pop albums that I think transcends its era. It does sound like the tail end of the 70s, the beginning of the 80s, in terms of some of the instrument choices and how they, like, things that I noticed, like the sound of drums and, the way synths sounded. But the songwriting is just good, simple, old-fashioned pop songs, and that really shows through. Even now, 30-some years later, it still feels really good. It's still fun to sing along with. It's still catchy as hell, and it doesn't feel old, I guess, is the best way to put it. It doesn't feel antiquated. Really, really, really strong musicians all over the album. Like, this is of the good things of the way the music industry worked in this era. Was like, if you wanted to and you could pay for it, you could get incredible people to play songs together on a record. And this is like the band that was Hall & Oates, just even outside of Daryl and John, was really, really impressive, and you see it kind of throughout here.
Very impressive quality songwriting from these guys. Drew, what would be some of the key tracks to zero in on, to hone in on?
Unlike most times, I'm not going to do the thing with the first track. I'm going to go straight into I Can't Go for that. Because as I said, it has. And that song, yes, I can go for that. But I can't go for that as a song. The beginning, like I said, like there's that late 70s, early to mid 80s, like sort of thing going on with these synths at the very beginning. It has a very, in my opinion, very disco-y sound to it, but it gives a very cool vibe over the whole song. And it very gets into this staccato. The synth very easily goes into the staccato rhythm with a very groovy bass line. It's a chorus that, like a lot of Hall & Oates songs, are very sing along with. To me, it's one of those. I can't go for that as one of those perfect Hall & Oates songs. It encompasses what the band can be at its, or what the group can be at its best points. I'd point to another example being Rich Girl, as we've hinted at probably earlier in this. But Rich Girl isn't on this album, so I have to mention I can't go for that. Did it in a minute. One, the song is easy to sing along to with content and lyrics and music that will just make you happy. No matter what day you're having, you could have had the longest day at work ever with people screaming at you all day. You put this on and you're going to smile a little bit. Also, I want to know where my TV show was that is the action comedy with this as the theme song, because it's very, as I said to Brett in the pre-show, reminds me a lot of Greatest American Hero.
Believe it or not.
Believe it or not, George isn't at home.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hey, there's a reference. But then title track. I always say, if you're going to have a title track, if you're going to have a song that is giving you the title of your record, it better be a great song. Private Eyes is a song that is one of those songs that, even if you don't know the name Hall & Oates, there was a kid I work with that was like, who's Hall & Oates? And I mentioned Private Eyes. He's like, oh, I know that song. It's one of those songs that everybody knows, and it's for good reason. It is one of those songs that you hear it, and it is in your head for the rest of the day, if not the rest of the week, and you're not angry about it because it's that damn good of a song. I could go on. I could mention other songs. I'm looking at the list and wanting to mention other songs. I'm going to not, because I think Patrick will hit me. Because I do it every time I bring up a record.
Tracks
but,
1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Right.
11.
Like I could take up. Like, it's just so good. It's so good, and it's so fun. And I'm gonna stop talking so I have final thoughts eventually.
Yes. Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Well, Private Eyes is a fantastic song. It's catchy. It's simple. It's one of those songs where you can't help but clap on cue. It's a solid track. Everybody's heard it. You don't really have to have me, tell you about it. It's probably, again, burned into people's brains to where they never have to hear it ever again. And they carry it with them in their little cubbyhole in their brain. I can't go for that. I'm not going to break down the whole song. I'm going to go for the first 57 seconds because there's enough going on in 57 seconds that gives you the caliber of musicians we're working. So okay, you start off and you get the echoed drum machine, and then the sick bass line. Then somebody decides, I'm going to shake a shaker, and I'm going to hit a block of wood. And then keyboards come in with the clunky guitar. Then an organ shows up. And that's before anybody says a word. That's the first 57 seconds of this song has more going on and is layered more than most songs that I've listened to in the previous albums where I said it was a wall of noise. There's just so much going on. Like everybody, there's like the next album that we're going to review has something similar. There's nobody that has an empty hand in this band. Like if you've got a hand, there's something for you to do. And you're going to be on cue. And Yeah, you get to work. Here's one clave. We're going to put a stand where the other one's laying sideways. Smack this from time to time. No, it's a really it's a master class in using the weirdest toys and the most, like, a shaker does not add that much to a song, but they did it really well. And I think that that I Can't Go For That is not the most. It's not the best song in the world, but it is a very fine song. They do it. The things that they got out of that, the fine details are great. And I enjoyed Head Above Water. This is one of those 80s movie montage scene type songs. You start out with that arpeggiating keyboard and growly guitars and the drums that sound like they're being recorded in a cave. All the stuff that you get there. But I really like how it opens up, and you get the strum guitar and the piano, and the bass follows the vocal melody, which is not something that I hear a lot of. It really stood out. It's one of those songs that I'm sure somebody has done a cover of that has got a little less cheese on it, and they've made that into something a little more palatable to the modern sound. But that is a fantastic song that isn't of the 42 radio hits that you still hear on the radio today. Yeah. But yeah, listen to this album. It's got songs for days.
Yes, it's got songs for days. Patrick, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Can't not mention Private Eyes. That's such a all-time great pop song. That's perfect. The hook's amazing. The claps in it.
Tell me about it.
The claps in that song are like, they work and they're right where you want them to be, and you can't not clap along if you have your hands available to do so. Like, it's like every time I hear it, it's like I have to sing along. I have to clap. It's that song. It just sucks you in, and you have to become part of it. I Can't Go For That is Brett kind of stole my thunder with talking about how the way the intro is. I love songs that build up from its parts, start with a drum track, add some bass, add all the little effects and details, and then finally work your way up to actually like the melody and the vocals. And it did that really well. The harmonies and background vocals on that song, and kind of all of them, are like stellar. Like the way they use having two vocalists, and then having people who can do all the sorts of harmonies and backing vocals they want, works really, really well. And Head Above Water, just that song, it just with for whatever reason hit me right in the feels in a really good way. It's just a fun song. It works really well. The harmonies are really nice, and I really, really, really like the hook on that one. Those are sort of the three that really caught me.
Yeah, those are fantastic songs. And I looked. I haven't had much luck finding a Head Above Water cover of Hall & Oates. Though I see that you can find several covers of Head Above Water by Theory of a Dead Man. So there's that. Yeah.
My searches weren't good. I'll have to ask Mr. Ibbotson about it. He probably has something on his hard drive.
If you want a good search for a song off of this album that's really fun to listen to, go ahead and search a band that we brought up before, that I brought to this here podcast, Chromeo. Look for them on Daryl's house doing I Can't Go For That, because it's pretty goddamn brilliant.
Yeah, there's a talk box.
They did a lot of Hall & Oates songs.
Live from Daryl's house, I Can't Go For That is amazing.
Yeah, talk about a keyboard hooked up to a talk box, doing the vocals. It's worth seeing, even if you don't like Hall & Oates or Chromeo or weird houses that are.
Yeah.
If you don't like Hall & Oates and Chromeo, I feel like you're a little dead inside.
They did a lot of Hall & Oates songs in that episode, and they did 2 Chromeo songs, one of which is ostensibly a Hall & Oates song that Chromeo wrote. But that's neither here nor there. That's somewhere on the internet. What's here is our conclusive thoughts. We're wrapping around, going back around the horn. Brett, what will be your conclusive thoughts on this album as a whole?
Personally, because these are our opinions, which are the be-all, end-all of music critiques. Write them down, etch them into stone. This is it. That Hall & Oates writes. They wrote some pretty awesome songs. They are. There's a reason why they are in halls of fame. They're just catchy enough, and just poppy enough. But if you look at it, it's a 2-guitar, vocalist playing keyboards band. They're playing rock and roll music at a time when people weren't doing that. Pop music was going one way. Rock music was teasing its hair out at that time. They were seasoned. They had already put a lot of miles on themselves by this time. So, this album is, sort of a getting towards the turning point. But there's such a storied bunch of people that came together to make some of the best written songs of the era. And there aren't a whole lot of people that can say they have as many radio hits or, even number one as this duo. I really enjoyed my time with this album. Again, whatever genre you want to put them in, I'm just glad that they're around to make tunes, because the world would be a whole lot different if we didn't have Hall & Oates.
Yeah. Patrick, what would be your conclusive thoughts on this album?
It's very, very, very good. It is. There's a reason we're talking about, a 30-some-year-old album and how much we enjoyed it. Great songwriting transcends everything, and that's sort of what this album has in spades, is just really, really good songs, and all of them executed well. It's and just sort of the aside to it is the history of Hall & Oates and everyone involved is the weirdest Wikipedia rabbit hole, because one of them married Gilda Radner, and then G. Smith was on SNL for my whole childhood as the head of the band and everything. There's so much here beyond the music, but the music's so good you just don't need to go down the rabbit hole, but it's a fun rabbit hole.
Yeah, this is just some classic fun rock and roll, blue-eyed soul, or whatever you want to call it. Just some fun tunes, man, and they're just done so well. Drew, what would be your conclusive thoughts on the album?
There are bands in pop music that you hear them on the radio and you're like, why is this here? Right? Why does this type of popular music exist? Then there are bands like Hall & Oates. And Hall & Oates got themselves where they are at because they can write a damn good song, they can produce a damn good song, they can write a goddamn hit, and they make songs that when they come on the radio, you feel good about it. There are guilty pleasures in this world that you sort of hole up, and you're like, I like this. I don't know why I like this, but I enjoy it, right? And other people might make fun of me for liking this or whatever. You put a song by Hall & Oates in the middle of a room, and if there's not multiple people that sing that song out loud with you, like the guys were saying, if you hear Private Eyes and you don't hear 3 people clap behind you, you need a new group of goddamn friends. There's something that's just fun. It is, like I said, it is all pleasure. There's no guilt. It is something that, at the end of the day, is, I liken it to, I think I put in here, popcorn. Because popcorn, just a regular tub of popcorn, just a little bit of salt. You eat it, and it's a snack, and it goes down easy, and you can just keep eating it. And it doesn't make you feel gross or weird like a big old bag of chips will, right? It's just a snack. It's easy. It goes down, and you feel okay after it. And that's what I think Hall & Oates is. They make something great, and it's easy to like. So it's something that was... Brett has thrown us softballs before.
Pac-Man fever.
Pac-Man fever. Real softball. I decided to toss a softball because it's fucking Hall & Oates.
And we received that ball and held on to it and caressed it.
That went somewhere different.
I don't know. I couldn't even come up with a clever one. But yeah, that's Hall & Oates. Those are our thoughts. And now we get to the main event of the evening. What we've all been waiting for. What I presume nobody did what I just did and wrote the moment Drew was explaining his conclusive thoughts. Our haikus.
So you're welcome.
Reviews. Let's see what our haikus are. Let's see if we can sum up things cleverly. Brett, what is your haiku?
Fantastic album. Real songwriting royalty. Still is relevant.
Patrick, what is your haiku?
2 Philly legends. Good, clean fun that transcends time. Timeless pop music.
My haiku. 2 dudes and some tunes that make you dance and feel good. God's bless that mustache. Andrew, what is your haiku?
Damn fucking awesome. Best possible pop music. Making goddamn hits.
Yes, those are our thoughts on Hall & Oates. Private Eyes. You can, of course, follow along with us and listen to this album on our Spotify playlist. Record Breakers, the home game. On that playlist, it's going to be our next record. It's going to be next week. It comes with, it's an album and a dare. A dare to listen to this album and not dance. And not at least try end up dancing subconsciously in your seat. Because it is one of the most legendary people in all of Latin American music history. Somebody who's recently immortalized in television form, but in a telenovela. And that is Celia Cruz and Celia y Johnny. Celia Cruz and Johnny Pacheco together. Their first collaboration, classic album. 42-year-old album at this point. I think the oldest album ever brought on the show. So it's going to be interesting to see what we think of it next week. But that's next week. And this is this week. You can, of course, find us all over the internet. Patrick is at Swagger. Brett is at HIBBARD, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Drew is at XDruciferX. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com if you want to email us. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, other places. You can find us all over there. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.